All right, good evening, everyone. It's 6:05, and we are going to call the meeting to order, the September 12th Berlin Board of Education meeting. We are going to begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I would like to welcome our new student representative, Ian Saunders. Is that how you say it? Saunders?
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
And welcome back, Samantha. So we're happy to have you back. We actually just had board orientation with Ian prior to the ad hoc policy meeting. So we are happy to have both of you with us.
Thank you.
We are going to go through our committee reports and correspondence to the board. So the first item is report of student representatives. So I'll turn it over to the both of you.
All right, thank you. So I'll start with the first day of school, which everyone was very excited for. So that was on August 25th. And seniors participated in this tradition of senior sunrise. Photos were not going to be found on the school's Instagram, and from what I heard overall, everyone had a great first day. And then the Berlin Fair is also this week, this Friday. They also had this Thursday as well, which is also exciting. Upbeat students are expected to be volunteering at the fair, as well as the BHS chorus and band, performing there as well as the McGee band. And then freshman orientation was on Friday, August 19th, with the new class of 26, participating in games and tours, questions and answers, and just getting the general information about BHS and then the new student IDs and Chromebooks and some merch, actually. And then, so the first week of school, we had a new thing called Drill Week, which is where we went over all the safety procedures, such as file drills and lockdowns and all that stuff. And we also are required to show our student IDs every morning before entering the building at the high school, which I feel very confident that it's going very well. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Great, and I'm going to start off with sports because we've had a very big first week of sports. So both girls and boys soccer had a 1-0 win against Maloney. Boys and girls country were at the Blue Dragon Invitational, where both teams did very well. Boys golf played against Newington at their home course, Timberland, and girls volleyball had 3-0 win against Hall. And then on Friday, we had the first football game of the year against Platt. Berlin won with a score of 38-28, and the marching band also debuted their first show title called Fire and Ice. And also we wanted to shout out the Red Sea for being there and bringing so much energy to the game. And then finally, on Friday, volleyball had their second game of the week against Newington, and we just want to say overall congrats to all the teams this week. You can tell everyone's been putting in a lot of hard work because it's definitely showing on the field. So Upbeat registration had a huge turnout, which is always great. There was a lot of students who signed up that night. I'm actually a house leader myself, and I actually just came from the first Upbeat meeting, and there was probably more kids than I've ever seen at an Upbeat meeting there. So we're definitely excited for all that participation this year, and where that's going to correspond to at the fair and stuff like that. And then there was the new student breakfast. It was held at the high school, and it gave new students an opportunity to be paired with an Upbeat student, and they kind of walked around and talked so that now these students have a friendly face in the hallway or someone to talk to. If they're in a class together, they can sit together. And I think it was just a really great way to integrate Upbeat students with new students and give them like a friend. And then that's all we have.
Thank you. Any questions for the student?
What was the score of the girls' soccer game?
1-0.
Who scored? Sam had the one goal to beat Maloney, 1-0. Congratulations.
Nice job,
Sam.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Good question, Adam.
Way to make her blush.
Put her on the spot like that.
I'm over here watching her just turn around.
Take the microphone when you can.
Okay, any other questions? Moving on to committee reports. The community engagement committee hasn't met, right? Okay. Curriculum hasn't met.
No, nothing to report.
F&O committee,
Have we had anything or no? Just before the prior meeting.
and the ad hoc policy committee.
And that, we will talk later. We've got a whole bunch of policies at the tail end of this meeting to chat about for first reading anyway, so.
Okay, so we just came out of that meeting.
No.
No crack report at this time. Any correspondence to the board?
No correspondence to the board this
All
time.
right, moving quickly. Audience of citizens. Anyone like to approach the board? No.
It's really quiet.
Very quiet. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for consideration?
I will move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So the motion by Tim, the second by Melissa?
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, we can move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Vote carries 9-0. New business, we are going to turn this over to Linda Holian to give us a update on the summer programs. Oh, and Lori Chapman and Cara Watson.
I'm gonna have Michelle and Cindy.
And Michelle and Cindy. I'm gonna just turn it over and you guys just do your reports. Sorry.
Does anyone want a hard copy, or do you all have some?
We'll take a break.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much.
I'll take one. Thank you.
We made the copies, we might as well take them.
We're saving all that money on the managed print services, so.
Give me one if you're trying to get rid of them. Okay, I mean, I guess I'll try.
Good evening. So here we are to talk about our summer program. Michelle and Cindy really do a wonderful job running the summer program. I mean, they organize the entire program and they make sure that it goes on without a hitch. So they just do an amazing job doing this. What we're going to try to do over the next few years, typically we just report on this past summer, but I asked Michelle to give us some history. So we're going to kind of compare the last 2 years. We could have gone further back, but we really didn't break it down this way, so that's why we just started with the past 2 years. One reason that last year's was a little bit higher, too, is that we didn't break out. This is the first year we broke out any time that we had new referral PPTs. We had to pay staff to do evaluations. That was all included in our summer school.
And the PMT summer
And the PMT as well. So it was, so this year we really wanted to just show you how much does ESY cost itself. And we do always have the PMT training, and we sometimes have students that get evaluated, but we kept those costs out of this. So I don't know if you want to kind of talk a little bit about.
Yeah, so overall, our numbers stayed consistent pretty much for the last 2 years. I did look at numbers 2020 and 2019, and 2019 there were 106 students, and 2020 there were 104, I think it was. So over the last, since then, we really have jumped up. I wanted to make sure that 2020 wasn't an anomaly, that our numbers were lower. The year before they were roughly the same. And so.
Well, also, 2020 was the year of COVID, so we had quite a few parents who didn't send their children.
Right, but it was similar to the year before as well. But since then, we've added the Transition Academy summer programming, so we have those students as well. So, I mean, our numbers are definitely up compared to how they had been previously. But I don't know if you have any questions on the breakdown on anything, but it was a good summer.
Do a lot of the students that actually begin the program end as well, or do you find that some will come for a few weeks in the beginning and then drop off, or some will just come at the end?
At the elementary level, they are pretty much consistent. We did have a handful of kids who did some travel that they hadn't done in a long time, so we had some kids out of the country who missed the first 2 weeks and then came back for the second 2 weeks, or vice versa. But for the most part, it was pretty consistent.
And I had a number of students that decided not to come, particularly at the secondary level. But again, some people that had planned vacations we knew about, but other than that, mostly they were there for all 4 weeks.
Okay.
So looking at this, it doesn't really look like numbers are up from
I was just
twenty
gonna
twenty-one
say
to
that.
twenty twenty-two.
No, they weren't.
They were not.
Okay.
It's 2020. We had 100 and, I think 106 or 104, and 2019 was 106, 104, so.
No, they were pretty
Yeah,
consistent.
but, yeah, very consistent the last 2 years. But if we were to go back, it's been up, we're up about 30 kids from a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Do we provide any transportation, or is that's all
We
included?
provide transportation.
We have to.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's part of it, just to give them access to the program.
Could you just speak to, for the board, knowledge that the program is mandated and that the percentage of students that are offered the program and percentage of students that typically attend? What that is, and just a little explanation for that.
So I actually did put on here that this year, out of all the students who were recommended, only 14 who were recommended, who indicated that they were gonna come, didn't come. The year before, coming out of COVID, we had a lot more students that were recommended. We had 39 that didn't come, so percentage.
Our total eligible students is about 450 students. So you can see of how many students we actually recommend for ESY. Those are those students that we're very concerned with, if they don't have that extra instruction over the summer, that they will regress, whether that's academically or socially or emotionally. So those students, it's very important for them to keep up that consistency, to have time with the staff. So that's how we make the recommendations. And our recommendations are pretty typical about, who are those students. But we do have 450 students identified, so these are the percentage of the students that are being recommended for services.
So, based on this, one could argue that actually your numbers are down from 2021 to 2022, from 22 to 21. If you consider that there were 39 recommended that didn't come, and this year there were only 14. If you do the math that way, is the amount of students
Number of
that
recommended
would have
was
come in
right.
is down.
Right, but we did have a lot more students recommended coming out of COVID than we did, this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have total cost, but this isn't the total cost to run the program because transportation's not
Transportation's
here,
not in it. That's
supplies
just-
are not here.
Nursing
Right, so
services and.
Nurses'
and-
services
right,
aren't
right.
here, so this is just your
Salary,
teacher and
yeah.
paraprofessional salaries, but none of the additional costs.
Yeah.
Is it possible to get what the total program looks like, dollars and cents
We
wise?
can get transferred, can we get how?
Yeah,
You want
Yeah.
cents too? Dollars.
the nearest dollar would be
Keep it
fine.
macro, yeah.
I have a quick question.
I saw Ashley shaking her head, yes, I do.
While Ashley's looking that up. So Linda, out of the kids that attend the summer program, were any of them recommended to be outplaced into a separate program that is not at one of the schools? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
My outplacement students aren't included in this,
Okay.
so.
So they don't attend this
No,
and then
they-
outplace
Yeah,
because of
they would
whatever
attend
reason.
their outplay, that's already.
You do that before the summer?
When you get that tuition budget, we factor in ESY services for those students. So this is just our in-house
Gotcha.
program. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
And are you satisfied with the program, or what would you want to make it better for the students?
I'm pretty satisfied with the program. The students really do well in the program. The teachers were really positive about students' consistency this year, being there and working really hard at the program. Felt like they made some not only maintained, but made some progress at the same point too. Particularly a couple of our kids in the reading program seemed to be, particularly kids in our decoding program, seem to be moving forward, not only maintaining.
So I guess I asked the question so that, right, so we're gonna enter budget again pretty soon, right? So I just be conscious of what it is you think that we can do for our students that would be better. And we should, if we can build that in some fashion. I know that dollars are always tight, but, I mean, we have to be aware of constantly making improvements to keep up with what the student needs are, so
I always wonder if we should do a 4-day program. I talk to more districts. I don't know many districts that do 5-day programs, but 4-day programs. It's staffing though, too. It's so hard to get the staff. I mean, I think they like knowing that we're coming Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so they have the long weekend, but.
What about longer days? So if it's just 3 hours a day, but it's 3 days a week, could we make those longer days for the students? I mean, because I do think, I totally understand the staffing shortages, just, you know, larger scale. That's not just Berlin, that's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But, and I think everybody benefits from having some downtime, probably many of the students included. But what if there were longer days, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays for folks? Could many of these students tolerate and or potentially benefit from longer days, more intensive?
When I talk to other people too, I think it's the average between 3 and 4 hours. So I think 4 hours, like we do with our students in the BLAST program, we could look at doing I mean, we could send a survey out to the families too, to see. You know, the secondary kids, they don't, a lot of times just getting them there
lucky to get them there.
for that short period of time, but the elementary
Yeah.
may be helpful.
Yeah, they like the students at the elementary level like that consistency too.
Yeah.
A lot of them thrive on being there, so.
Right.
I have a question on, so I noticed that this year you added 1 teacher and, like 8 paras, more additional paras. And yet we had a couple, 2, less students attend. How was that with having a little more, you know, not one-on-one, but.
Well, some of it is because some of our
Right.
students, depending, we may have more students that
So was
needed
that
one-on-one.
why we had that many this time? Okay.
Yes.
But I did notice the cost really isn't that much more to add that additional.
And then one of our teachers, our veteran teachers left us. Our teacher of the year, who ran our behavior program, she went to another district and she usually did ESY. So her students, we had to spread out with a number of different teachers, which meant we needed to have more paras there to help because Mary could just work magic with those kids. So we wanted the kids to have a positive experience as well. So that was part of that as well.
And I just want to, I think my prediction, when we look at next year's, what the staffing costs would be, that it would be up quite a bit more, because I think last year's, like Linda said, had the PMT training in and the evaluations, and that's not in this year's. So I think it looks real close to last year's, but I think next year we're going to see a jump, and that'll be why. So I don't want you to be surprised when next year, you know, there's only a $1,000 difference between last year and this year, and next year it's 10,000, say, I don't know, or 5,000, but that might be why.
Matt, take a guess how much transportation was.
I'll take a guess.
Let me
I'll-
think.
I'll-
Go
I'll
ahead,
say-
Adam.
Wait, how many?
Let Matt
I'll
guess
say
first
this.
and then you guess.
All right, go ahead.
Put him in the hot seat.
This is just for
I
ESY?
don't know.
Pending August, pending August.
Okay.
Keep that down.
We gotta place our bets.
So are you just calculating transportation in town for our students? in
Yes.
this program?
No.
So it's
Tuesdays,
out of
Wednesdays, and
town. So
Thursdays.
the other
Oh, okay.
thing too is that this is,
Matt, it includes out of town as well, so you have to
Yeah.
have
Oh,
your
well, I'm not
numbers.
even gonna guess.
that's hard to gauge.
I don't know.
Take a little guess.
Just
Plus,
take a
this doesn't
guess.
include tuition.
It's okay if you're
the
wrong.
other-
No.
35,000.
Oh, God, I was gonna say 100,000.
90,645.
Nice job,
For
Adam.
those amount of weeks, for that period of time?
For July.
1 month?
Well, probably the last
See
week
what
in
happens.
June, the first week in, yeah.
100,000.
town.
Man, Peter's doing all right.
Ashley said it doesn't include August, so it's about
130,000.
Oh, so I'm not over, okay.
You win the Price is Right game.
No,
He
transportation
does,
is
that's I'm glad he
expensive.
played.
No, I remember this came up a couple of years ago, and I was shocked at how much it was.
Yeah.
Because I don't think
The
we had it.
transportation is
I
gonna
don't
be
think we had a
just
line
about
item
as
for it
much
previously.
as.
Yep.
That's like 200 bucks to stage just for practice, it's like $300.
But you're also not,
So build a field.
Nope.
this is
I don't-
also a
can't do it.
fraction of the summer cost, because kids also continue to attend their outplacement, which is tuition that doesn't include this. This is only in-house
Right.
salary.
The
Yes,
tuition
but
counts
that
outplacement.
tuition is already counted in their tuition number over here.
Right, right. But I'm just saying, if we're just looking at summer and summer programming ESY for students, and you're counting the transportation of going to those outplacements, then you also have a cost associated with the summer that you could, extrapolate from the other data.
Any other questions for us? But we'll add nursing, we'll start adding nursing and transportation to this. Nursing, we always add in our budget, so when you see my budget presentation, that's usually for ESY, so that's easy to put in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so now we will have Gloria Turpin and Carl Watson provide an overview of the Summer Academy programs that were available to support academics and expand our arts programming.
All right, so you should have a hard copy in your packet as well as information in Schoology for this. So when you look at our numbers across the board, you're going to see some variation in the number. So even if you look at Summer Academy, you have more kindergarten students enrolled than rising third graders because families are more likely to include their youngsters, their youngest students. But we do have the issue, it's not really an issue, but we have people who say that they're going to come and then don't come. So we end up planning for what they tell us will happen, and then we end up with sometimes more, well, never more, but less. And it's for different reasons. So sometimes it's transportation, sometimes it's an unplanned vacation, because we do not provide transportation, so no guessing game for you, Matt.
Too bad.
$0.
Ding, ding,
You
ding.
win.
So elementary summer academy is for our rising first, second, and third graders. And those are students who may not be hitting benchmark that we would expect to hit benchmark. And so we invite all of them, and we end up with quite a few people. We structure the program so that we have every student going through math sessions, reading sessions, STEAM sessions, as well as we have individual or small group reading instruction for every student every day. So it ends up being, it's 12, it ends up being a great opportunity for families that can take part in it. Our Jumpstart into kindergarten is for students who've never taken any preschool courses, and so they come to us. We did a session at the beginning of the year and a session at the end of the summer, and the families that did participate in it really appreciated the opportunity, and that's funded by a grant from the Community Foundation of Greater New Britain.
I know, just put the hair belt in.
Just moved my mouth.
I'm joking.
Before you go on, can you just say, how are students identified, or how are they aware of the Jumpstart into Kindergarten program?
So when they register for kindergarten, we look at all of their information, and on there they write down whether or not they participated in that. And Laura Curtis pulls all the data for us, and we're able to then invite everyone.
The nice thing with August, by then, we have a lot of our registrations completed. Our June session is a little smaller because we're waiting on a number of registrations at that point. We had a number of students from June who also attended in August because our focus was different.
That's great. I'm sorry, just to go back to the elementary summer academy, this existed prior to ESSER II funding, right?
Yeah.
So how was it funded prior to that?
We did not have it prior to.
Oh, this is our second
that's what
year.
I was asking.
Yeah.
So we actually had a long time ago, something called Summer Sundays.
Okay.
That people were invited, that students were invited to, that was also funded through a grant. And that went away, but for years and years, families kept saying, are you going to do that again? Are you going to do that again? So this was a wonderful opportunity to set that.
So what happens after September 30th, 2024,
So
when
we're gonna.
ESSERS is gone?
So we're gonna try to look to see if it can become a self-funded program, so we can have enrichment opportunities that are paid for by families, as well as the academic portion, which we'd have to look at whether it would be funded by families or whether it would be paid for by the enrichment. We don't know. We have to kind of play that out. We hope that it doesn't have to go away, but that is an option, unfortunately, right?
Yep.
That's just, I guess, reality. But we are gonna look for other ways to fund it. Elementary Camp Thundermoon, we invite students, and that's really more for socialization as well as language opportunities for students. So it might be English learners, it might be students who are joining us from Hartford. And this was offered to students for up to 4 weeks with 5 days a week. Elementary Band Camp is for students who are just taking up an instrument, and families pay for that, but we were able to support some of that with a small funding through ESSER.
But now, haven't we always run a band camp?
Yeah, but the Manzi Foundation has pretty much taken it over, I think, for the older kids.
Older kids, right,
I don't
once
think
they
that we've
know.
had a younger since years ago when I was a kid.
It's still, and these are the ones that are kids who have never picked up an instrument before.
Third going into fourth grade. And primarily run by our instrumental teachers in district.
And then,
Right. And then we also offered some programs for our older students in math. So McGee and VHS, we had a summer math academy. This is a little bit of a smaller program than the other ones already mentioned. It's only a 1-week program. Again, to Lori's point, no transportation unless it was through choice. Also, we should have mentioned for all of these programs, we actually overlap our locations and our times with ESY, so we don't pay for separate nursing staff. So we utilize the same staff. We work to make sure we're efficient there. So a smaller program, it's taught by middle and high school math teachers. It is recommendation based, looking at our math data during the year. The goal is to help set our students up to be successful for the start of the year. So we look at our priority standards going into that next school year. They do a number of mini lessons, and then they also support them with individualized help getting started with some of their summer assignments, because they have required summer assignments in math. And a lot of the kids who attend are kids who on their own would most likely not complete that or complete it successfully on their own. So we support that as well. With the incoming 9th grade, we host that at the high school along with the 10th grade. And part of what they do, they get a little break mid-morning, and they actually take them on tours around the building. They get to ask questions, kind of learn about a day in the life of a 9th grader, and that's been a big sell as well. Our numbers this year, so 7th and 8th grade, this was new. We did not offer that last year. Last year we only had 9th and 10th grade. We did have a little bit of an issue with some of the attendance due to some of our transportation. We actually didn't know until a week or two before, I think it was right at the beginning of July, if we'd even have drivers. And so there were some issues with timing and bus stops. And unfortunately, that impacted some of our numbers. And then we had some high schoolers who changed either town or went to tech schools, and we can't provide this for them if they're not coming back to us. So we had a few issues at the last minute there. And then we also, something new this year we tried, based on some of the work we're doing to try to improve our SATs. We did offer also during 1 week in the mornings a VHS SAT Math Academy. This was taught by one of our high school math teachers who does a lot of work around the data analysis of SATs and how we perform. And we offered it with a max seating of 20 students. We actually had 20 set, and then the week of we had 2 students drop out for other reasons of things that they were vacation or whatever it was, and it was a little late to get anybody new. But we had 18 students. We actually got some feedback at the end of that from a handful of students who I was able to talk to, and they actually said they would love to have had either an extra hour each day or maybe one more day to do a little bit more. But they thought it was a great introduction. We were able to individualize and kind of look at their strengths and challenges. For this, we did purchase copies of the new version of the Princeton Review SAT book. They utilized that to kind of get them started. That was the only thing we charged them for as part of this program. So overall,
It was great, and my son attended that one. I was saying the book is this big. He
Yeah,
came
it's
home,
huge.
and I actually thought it was my husband's study that something he was doing, and it was on the table forever. And I looked at it, I was like, essay. Oh. And I go, what are you supposed to do with this?
a lot of
All the
practice
practice
tests.
tests.
And it's not just math. The book
He did
contains
say
both,
he
so.
learned something. I forgot what it was. He's like, I totally learned something new, and I don't remember exactly. He was trying to explain it to me, but he did great. I mean, he liked it. So I definitely think this. I mean, well, it was great. I would do it again.
Thank you.
And the fee for the parents was nothing. I mean, it wasn't.
The fee for the book, that's all we charged,
Yes.
which was nice.
The paperweight.
to be able to do. But to Matt's point, in the future, if we were to keep offering this and we didn't have the funding, that is a type of class that's not based on recommendation, where we're inviting, this is open to any student, so this is something we could potentially charge a little bit more for. But we're trying to do our best to provide access for all. So.
With the McGee and BHS Summer Math Academy, I'm curious, grade 9 with 11 students had 2 teachers, but the others all had 1.
So this was one of the grades we had an issue with. We actually had 38 students recommended, so we had anticipated, but we actually try to keep it small group because it's so individualized.
sense.
But we had more than the 11 on our list, even who had said yes, they were coming, and at the last minute, we had some that backed out. So
Okay, thank you.
that gets tricky. We
Nope, I
do our
know.
best to plan
Like,
accordingly.
you made a commitment to the teacher, I get it, and then the students bail, so. Excellent.
Just a comment, I think that, looking at the academic and the social emotional needs of students, that these, rather the programs may be very targeted and small number of students, but the fact that they were offered and the use of ESSER funds to provide the programs, I think had a, impact on the students that took part in them, so thank you both for putting it together.
Do you want us to, we're still here for the summer curriculum?
Oh, I know you're here for that one.
Speak to that?
No, I wasn't speaking to that one yet, that was just about the programs for
Do you,
students.
Before you go there.
yeah, before you move on, let's just make sure everyone's questions are good, so.
So I think maybe I misheard. Can you just explain of the programs that were outlined just now, which ones have transportation and which ones do not?
The only transportation that's provided is if the child comes, is part of Berlin through the choice program.
Okay, because I thought you
And
said
it's
no
provided through
transportation, then
CREC.
you said that people signed up with correct transportation, and okay. that
Yes,
makes
so we don't provide any
For
for any
district.
Berlin
Got it.
residents,
Okay.
so it's all through choice. And we work with the people through the Choice of Transportation
Yep.
program, and they arrange all of it.
Okay.
Any other questions on the update?
Brian, we need about $60,000 a year to keep these ones going.
Do you see that this is?
Go find it.
I mean, like common sense is it would work. Are you finding now that they've started school and things that the children who have participated at any of these levels have gained or definitely benefited by maintaining from just these programs right here? Or is it just kind of?
No, so we just are starting to get the data
Okay.
in, so we don't have that yet.
Okay,
That is
that's okay.
something that the literacy specialists, and I'm sure the math specialists are going to do, but yeah, that's
Okay.
a great question.
And having done this one prior year, we did have positive results last year from all of these programs
Okay.
that we had offered. There's a couple new ones, but even looking at the math, which is a little bit smaller, but elementary definitely. We had, the students were very positive after as well and felt confident going in, they were ready to roll, and just had that little bit of extra to boost some of their skills, their confidence, and
Which
actually
is-
come in prepared with their assignments and things completed.
Which is probably
Very
good because
productive.
we've lost so much over the past few years. So I'm sure this is helping get their confidence and get other things
Exactly.
going as well.
Yep.
And it's interesting because you have parents who are thinking their child will qualify the following year, and they didn't because they had this at the beginning of the year, and then as through instruction throughout the year, they made benchmarks by the end
That's
of
what
the
we
year.
want.
Exactly.
Then we have to apologize, so.
I know.
We can't invite them.
We understand the nervousness.
I just think the uniqueness of some of the numbers, the ratio of staff per student, students are used to having that type of instruction at that level, that focused on their deficits. And you talked about how to possibly do this. I know Lori and Cara mentioned is possibly some funding by the parents, nominal funding to provide it, as well as partnering with the Y where it can become a program where in the morning they may work on skill areas that they need to work on. In the afternoon, they go to camp. So it then provides the full daycare of, for the parents that work. So we're looking at options, and we'd love to have a more robust program even in the summer for the students. So stay tuned.
Any other questions, comments?
I think it's great. Lots of opportunities out there, so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think excellent update. We can move on to the summer curriculum update.
So I can start if you want. So each year, we host a number of curriculum projects in the summer. And what happens in the springtime, we put something out to staff. And there are a couple of ways the projects get developed. In some cases, the staff members will put forth an idea of what they plan to work on. They have to give us a summary and an expectation of outcomes, how many hours they're looking for, etc. So some come right from the staff members, and then the curriculum office also identifies some projects that are a priority for us. Specifically with elementary, that happens with some of our math and literacy updates and things that need to happen, where we will put something out and ask teachers to join us if they are interested. We do use money from our budget as well as money we've received from grants to fund the projects. In some cases, there are brand new courses being written. In other cases, they are updating parts of the curriculum, redesigning units, redesigning assessments or experiences. What we did here, we vet all of the projects. We also talk through hours. We adjust hours as needed. We work with the principals and department supervisors to make sure that everything is appropriate and things that we feel need to be done. And what we did just on the sheet that you have, we included just a small variety of some of the projects that were completed this summer. They are done throughout the summer. A number of them are done in June. And then we also have some that extend into July or August. We're pretty flexible depending on availability. Anything?
We tried to include things that were different, right? So we tried to include specialists, academic, core classes. We tried to include things that are done like advisory at high school. So all of those different pieces, just so that you could see a little bit of what happens during the summer. And what's great is that we have wonderful teachers who are willing to put the time in to really go the next step.
How long have we had zoology?
This is it.
It's new.
The southern zoology is new.
You don't remember the zebras walking around the high school when we were there? Come on.
There's something for everybody.
We're fortunate to employ a teacher at the high school
Yeah.
who has a connection with Southern, who teaches at Southern as an adjunct.
Okay.
And that's how we're able to bring zoology to the high school and to have the Southern connection.
Do we know
So
We're going to be
anyone else?
looking at other courses too with Southern.
Do we know
I met with
anyone else
Eileen
who
last
has
week.
a Southern connection?
We know someone who sits at the table with
Okay,
a Southern
okay,
connection.
just saying, because
Why, do you know somebody?
I might know somebody.
Adam, we actually have a couple of sections
So
of it,
confused.
not just one, we have two.
2 sections?
Very popular.
Are there koalas coming to the school?
And-
That's what we need to
and
do
it al-
there.
It
Well, I
also
think
speaks-
the early college experience is a draw.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other draw is that definitely the teacher's very
Yes.
involved. He's at the
Oh, I
football
know.
games, he's really connected to students, so they're a great draw for the teacher too.
Yeah, that's where I was.
That's where you lost me.
Well, I got the connection right away. You know, it's like-
No, she had
we
to
were
explain
lost.
it.
I'm thinking zoology.
I was still thinking about zoology.
Carrie, I got that right away.
I know you did, that's why I was talking to you,
All
right?
right, I got it.
Yes.
I right away. Bell went off. Another person works at home. I got it.
You guys all done playing?
No,
Nope.
I'm ready to go back to Price is
So I have a
Right.
question, and I don't know if you can answer it right now, but the business education update of the curriculum. Can you tell me what types of things you updated in that curriculum?
We'd have to get you.
We'd have to look back at our, I'm not sure
That's
exactly.
fine.
Business ethos.
Well, I'm asking the question, and I don't want to come across as critical, but I know that when my kids went through it, like, you know, they learned how to write and balance a checkbook. Well, they've never written a check since they've, right, so it's,
I'm the only one in my family that balances my check.
right, but
I can
like,
see this.
it's not that they didn't, it's not that they don't need to learn how, it's just banking has drastically changed.
Right.
So I was just curious as to what kind of things
Sure,
they
we
were
can
learning
get that.
through
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Is, you know, hopefully
They're gonna learn how to use their phone, the apps.
you know, well,
Logging in.
unfortunately, exactly.
Maybe that's what they're
So,
learning.
I was just curious.
We can get that for you.
Actually, you don't even have to. I trust
No.
you.
Oh.
I just was asking. Yeah.
All right.
Do you
I mean,
have
I
any-
trust that you
Like,
were
we
setting
have it
up the
all.
right courses.
We have a
I just
giant
was asking.
spreadsheet.
Do you have anything else to add to the update?
Any
That's it.
questions?
Questions, comments from the board?
You can see a lot of work being done.
Oh my gosh, they were busy.
Busy summer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all your updates. All right, moving on, I'm gonna turn this over to superintendent, right? Or Mr.
I
Putnam?
could speak to it.
Okay,
Mr. Cugno, would you like to speak to this?
endorsement of grant application, the Connecticut Community Challenge Grant.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to take a few minutes to give you a little bit of a summary on something new that's come up to the board very recently. Jim Mahoney, who some of you may know, is a consultant to the Economic Development Commission here in Brooklyn. Does a great job. I know Jim for a lot of years. I've done projects with him before I ever got here. He's very, very aggressive and does a good job getting money and grants for the town and economic development. Jim called me a while back and said he was working on a grant called the Connecticut Community Challenge Grant, which you received in your package, a memo with some summary information regarding it. It's normally considered an economic development grant. This year, I guess what DECD is doing, Department of Economic and Community Development, they're looking to get more equity investment involved in a lot of their grant programs. That's a term that used to be just called, let's give a match of money somewhere. Now they're looking for equity investment literally into projects. So Jim is working to get some money from the town. So that's the preliminary situation, along with Chris Edge. They made an application to the challenge grant about a year ago. Round one, they didn't get it, only because they didn't have enough equity investment. Now they've done a little more research, and what Jim did is contact the district, contacted me, and said, we'd like to get some more money for the downtown area, and we think we can utilize the investment that was made by the YMCA, not only in the schools, but also in 362 Main Street, where Linda's CCTA project is. So we started talking about it. Jim is very creative. He's being very, very creative right here. And so what you have in front of you today is a preliminary report, because there's going to be more work done not only on what the projects are, but also what the dollar figures are. But the reason you have a report today is that the second funding round, the application is due on October 2nd. And what we wanted to do is get an endorsement, if you so like, from the Board of Ed for the grant by the time October 7th. So that's why it's getting so quick. A little bit of an idea, and I know you do have a memo on it, but they want to expand the scope of what they were working on before with the Newport Realty and Newport Center, and you all know our new development downtown, how well that's going. They're trying to get more money for that. By adding some things in that the Board of Ed are doing, the YMCA are doing, they're going to be able to get more of an aggregate amount of up to $1 million grant. So that's what this is. The memo speaks to a number of things. I don't want to go over it if you've already read it, but just for the record, Newport Realty is doing some additional things down in the downtown area with mixed housing units and affordable units. The Kinston Fire Department at Borough Land Trust are doing improvements to their trails, building a bridge over a swale in Farmington Avenue, and doing a number of other things. The Berlin Board of Ed, of course, and Meriden YMCA are doing not only CCTA downstairs, which is downtown, which is the former YMCA building in downtown, but also improving the daycare facilities and offerings, obviously, at our two schools, McGee and Hubbard, and fixing up the transition academy. The last thing is construction of sidewalks in Lincoln. One thing I want to get on the record, because it's probably the most important, is there's a preliminary budget. I say to you that it's a preliminary budget because these numbers are going to change. But it's very interesting for us because when you look at, they figured out, and this information originally came from Jim and from Chris Edge, I'm really just supporting their information, is with the equity they think they can put together on these projects, they think they can get almost a $600,000 grant for the Newport project and close to $400,000 for our CCTA project down at P62 Main Street. Also another $50,000 for the open space project. Makes up $1 million. We're backing into $1 million because the minimum grant is $1 million. This program goes from $1 million to $10 million. We don't have those kind of projects in town to do equity and economic development. So, to make a long story short, there's a lot more that's going to be said about this project as it comes forward. What the town has asked is if the Board of Ed would also, along with the town, they've already endorsed it, endorse this grant. So from all the supporters of the grant, the public sector, that DECD can say that we're all in line and collaborating on this issue.
So before we open it up, thank you for that report. Lots of good information. Do we have a motion for consideration once that's second, and then we can open it up for discussion?
I'll move that the Berlin Board of Education endorses and supports the town of Berlin's application for funding under the Connecticut Community Challenge Program.
Second.
So the motion by Adam, the second by Carrie. Open it up for discussion now. Thank you.
I could just say one more thing, because I think it's important for you to know your side of the project.
Yes.
And then Linda Holian, who knows a lot about what we're asking for to be done at CCTA, and that's what we would use the money for if in fact we received it. And it is in the memo, but just to give the audience a little idea, paving the outdoor parking lots, landscaping, furniture, remodel the kitchen room, put in sinks and cabinets, install AC in the entire building, and a few other items that new furnace, things that are very, very important. We have a long-term lease, quite frankly, for that building because of our negotiations with the YMCA. So it behooves us to have that building be really up to snuff. We can get grant money, it helps out us, it helps the YMCA, it helps out the town. It's a nice situation. Again, it's a very creative look at how to get grant money, but I think DECD is getting creative, and I think Jim is trying to bring this home. That's the only thing I have to add.
And you just said, I mean, Jim Mahoney's excellent, and I like the fact of thinking a little bit differently, and if you've got investments being made already, you might as well try to capitalize on that and see if we can try to get some additional funding from the state. It makes sense. There's been a lot of work in and around that area, the Main Street, Farmington Avenue intersection with the new buildings, the existing the fire department. There's been land swaps, land trust, a lot of people involved in that area, so I think it's a great idea.
It's very frankly a great collaboration between the town and the Board of Ed and the developer and the Y. It's just, DECD, I think, is going to love this.
The transition, all the improvements for the Transition Academy, and I see the estimate from the grant and everything. Are we involved with other towns in that too, or is it just us?
We are.
What are they?
The Central Connecticut Transition Academy is a collaboration between Cromwell and Pembroke.
And everybody like contributes the.
Yes, we're not asking for any actual contributions from Cromwell in this. We're not asking for any contributions actually from CCTA. This is we're piggybacking on to investment that is already done and asking DECD to put investment into our building.
What about with the YMCA? How they're like the New Britain, Meriden YMCA? Will New Britain and Meriden be involved in it, similar to Cromwell, or no?
No. All that the YMCA is supporting here is this grant.
Okay.
And understand the reason they're involved is they're our landlord.
Right, that's all.
The building. So, and the money they're investing, I know it's not a really clear path here, but that's why it's creative. The money they're investing in the schools, McGee and Hubbard, which is close to $400,000 right now, is being used as equity against the
Any other questions or comments?
So, Jeff, the improvements that we're talking about for the Transition Academy, and there's a list of 10 items here.
Yep.
If I back out the math, there's about $55,000 left to get to that 373, 910 if I take the 18 plus the 300,
Yep.
and then to be determined. When I look at the list, it would appear to me that that's going to be more than $55,000 when you start talking about paving and landscaping, air conditioning, reimbursing for a new furnace, remodeling a kitchen. Like, I know if I remodel my kitchen, it would probably cost me more than I really want to think about. So if we're going to do all of these things, where will the balance come from, right?
Well, we'd only be able to do the amount of money that we can get our hands on.
Okay. Look, I'm all for grants, absolutely. I agree with Adam 100%. We should, if this is out there, we should take advantage of it.
I think this layout, if I'm not wrong, is just a means to the million.
Right.
And that TBD number might become 250. And then the total grant request would be 1.25. I think this was just a proof of concept to say we can get to the baseline with everything else, and the TBD will, because it can go up to 10 million from what it says at the beginning. Not that we're gonna go anywhere near that, I don't think, but.
Something that Linda and I are already working on is to get reasonable professional cost estimates on this work, so we know what to put in for it.
Yeah.
This is happening so quickly that we didn't know what these costs are, but we're already getting, I was talking to Jim Mahoney in the town, and Linda and I have been speaking relative to getting someone to do a professional cost estimate on this, because these aren't, we can't be guessing with this kind of thing, you've got to have some real cost.
Jeff told me to put a wish list together, so I just went.
That's how these things start.
Right.
That's how you start.
Any other comments, questions? Moving on to a vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, vote carried 9-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that update. Moving on to policy review revision, the first reading. I was in the meeting, but I am not an official member of the ad hoc committee, so I'm going to turn it over to Tim and Brian.
So, I mean, we do have 14 policies here before us. They are first readings. From what we talked about in the meeting, there was not a lot of substance to these policies, but they are all in Schoology for everybody to review. Some of the policies were just, language and legal related pieces that were updated as references to statutes and things of that nature.
Administrative regs,
A lot of it just the administrative regulations and nothing, I would say, overly earth-shattering in terms of things to change. So at this point, as we've said, it is just the first reading of these policies. We will have these on the agenda in October for adoption. So if anybody has any questions about these policies and you weren't in the meeting, that's fine. Direct those to Julia and she will work with Brian to get some answers. That's it.
Do you have anything you'd like to add about the policy?
No, as Tim said, I think many of them are just updates, some of them are just wording. Some used to say assistant superintendent, now it's directors of curriculum. Many are just regulations, not even policy changes. And there's 2 new policies which are mandated that we used model policies of Shipman and Goodwin to produce those. So they're not, most of them are not drastic overhauls, just more updates that align with current legislation or what we currently have in place here in the Berlin Public Schools.
Any questions or comments? So at our next meeting, we will have our second reading. In between then, reach out, so no action is required this evening. I believe our next meeting starts at 7 p.m., not 6. It was on Tuesday.
First reading, it's okay.
It was the first reading, yeah, so no actions required. Sorry, normally people tell me I'm too loud. I'm just not loud enough. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 9-0. We adjourn at 6:59 PM. Who made the second?
Adam, of course.
Okay.
Is that a question?
It was.
He's usually first, but like,
Yeah, but.
Good job. Thank you, everyone, for a great meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ian, for your first.